Welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about writing and solving equations, and we're just going to be talking about addition and subtraction today. So our learning goal is that I can write and solve one-step equations using addition and subtraction. And our words to know for this are equation, solution, variable, and inverse. And I found this joke that many of you have heard, but I thought it'd be funny to add to the slide since we're starting algebra. Dear algebra, stop asking to find x. She's not coming back. We don't know why either. I like to always start with visuals when we're learning. So if I'm looking at this problem, number 1, I can see that I have 3 and 4. So there are 12 blocks here. So I just found the area. So there is 12 on this side. We don't know, this is an unknown amount. It's an unknown box. So we can give it a variable of b for box or x. I'm just going to call it b and make it a box. But then I also have plus 4 more of the small boxes. I want to know how many of the small boxes are in one big box. So to figure that out, to balance out, I know I can take these 4 away. But that means if I to keep it balanced, if you think of an actual balance beam, that means I need to take away 4 from here. So I'm just going to take these top 4. And this would look like saying minus 4, which would make this, now I have 8 blocks. And on this side, I would only have B. So that means that there are 8 blocks in one big box. Okay, let's look at the next example. So once again, we have our box of unknown amounts. So that's my B. So B plus I have 3 boxes I do know. Then on this side, remember our scale is the equal sign because what's happening on one side is equal to the other side. There is 8 objects, and you could think of them as rocks or whatever you want to call them. To figure out what B is, once again, we know we're going to have to take away these 3 blocks, and we're going to have to take away 3 blocks over here. So minus 3 from both sides. And then after I do that, I am left with, so 3 minus 3 gives me 0, so I just have B. 8 minus 3 gives me 5, so I have B equals 5. When we're solving one-step equations, we like to use the word inverse. Let's put a problem back on that was on the previous slide to discuss what could the word inverse mean. So if we're looking at 8 equals B plus 4 as just a simple equation, we learned from the model that we would subtract 4 from both sides. So minus 4, because we want to keep it balanced. What you do to one side of an equation, you must do to the other side to keep it balanced. So if I subtract 4 on this side, I get 4. And then on this, 4 minus 4 is 0, so I'm just left with B. So if I'm thinking about what is the inverse for addition, you can see that I changed addition to subtraction. So the word inverse means the opposite operation. So the inverse is the opposite operation of a given operation. So if we're looking at addition, the opposite or the inverse would have to be subtraction. The opposite of subtraction would need to be addition. The opposite of multiplication would be division, and the opposite of division would be multiplication. So another way to think of the inverse is an operation that undoes the operation that was given to you. Let's look at 2 different methods that were used to solve one-step equations. So in this first method, they have a plus 7 equals 9. He wrote out a plus 7 minus 7 equals 9 minus 7. He kept his problem balanced because he subtracted 7 here and he subtracted 7 on this side. So I have a plus 0 equals 2. The second method he did is he wrote it vertically, and he did -7 below the numbers. Either way is correct. It just depends, would you like to write it vertically or horizontally? And the same thing is done on this side. So instead of subtracting 8 to get rid of the 8, he added 8, because -8 plus a +8 gives you 0, or 8 minus 8 is 0. And then on this side he has 12 plus 8. So he has b plus 0 equals 20, and 20 equals b. And you can see on this method he did the same thing, except for he wrote it vertically. Let's look at how we can solve these one-step equations. So on the first one, we have 5 3/4 equals x minus 4 1/2. We have to think, what is going to get x by itself? So to get x by itself, I'm going to have to add 4 1/2 to both sides. Because then I have a -4 1/2 plus a +4 1/2 gives me 0. So I just have an x left. But then I need to think, how can I add 5 3/4 plus 4 1/2? So I'm going to come down to the bottom here and rewrite. So another way I could write a half is by saying 2/4, because we have to have common denominators. So 5 plus 4 gives me the 9. And 3/4 plus 2/4 gives me 5/4. But that is improper. So I have 1 whole, so I need to add a whole to make it a 10, and I'll have 1 left over. So when I add those, I have 10 and 1/4. Now you try the next problem, pause the video and then unpause it when you are done. I hope you paused the video and now are back with us. Once again, this is a subtraction problem, so to get rid of the subtraction of 345 and 91/100ths, I would have to add that number. So I'm going to add it to this side as well. So when I add it, this will give me 0 again. And so I have equals a. But remember, when we're adding decimals, we have to line up the decimal. So I'm going to come down here and work this one out, and I'm actually going to put the 345 and 91/100ths on top. So I'm lining up my decimal. If there is a blank space, I'm just going to put a 0. So we're adding, so 372 decimal 863. So 368 and 73. It's the correct answer. So there we go. Okay, this time I'm going to try the decimal one first, and you're going to do the fraction one on your own. So this time we are adding, so the opposite of adding is to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 3 14/100ths from both sides to keep it balanced. So I have W equals, once again, I'm going to have to line up my decimals. 27, the decimal is always after the whole number. So if I add that, I would get 30 14/10. Okay, so that now that we have finished this one, pause the video and try F on your own. Now check your work with the video and see how you did. You could also reduce 4/12 to 1/3. When you are trying to see if something is a solution, like they're telling you x equals 25 and you're trying to decide if it's true, you're going to go back to when we were talking about evaluating expressions. So if I plugged in 25 for x and rewrote this as 25 plus 17 equals 8, I can determine if this equation is balanced. If I add 25 and 17, I would get 42 equals 8. And 42 does not equal 8, so it's not a solution. Now you pause the video and try B and C on your own and then come back. Now unpause the video and check your work. As you can see, 16 minus 12 does equal 4, so 4 equals 4 is a solution. And then I also plugged in 2 1/3 on the last one, and 2 1/3 plus 15 1/3 does equal 17 2/3. So that is also a solution, or a correct true statement. Now try these problems on your own, and if you have any questions, bring them to class and check them with your classmates, and then check them with me. Your to-do list before class is to complete your notes, write down any questions, and be prepared to discuss. Writing and graphing inequalities concept check will be on Monday the 11th.